So far in Module 1, we've looked at how does your qualification or your program that you're developing or reviewing, how does this relate to the situation in which it is located? So we've looked at the situational analysis, we've looked at stakeholder context, institutional context, disciplinary context, pedagogic context, and today we're going to be looking at how does your qualification or program compare with other academic qualifications, and how is this going to help you conceptualize your program or your subject. So why conduct a comparative analysis of other academic programs in relation to yours? Well, firstly, if you are going to be considering a program, considering developing a program or reviewing a program, it helps you to locate your qualificational program within an acceptable educational standard. So you'll always be comparing your qualification to best practices of other institutions or leading institutions or leading leaders in the disciplinary field. You're not going to be comparing yours to the worst, you're going to be comparing it to the best. So it helps to set an educational standard for your program, to aspire to be the best. It also helps you to establish context. All educational programs are developed in relation to context. They're never developed or should not be developed as out of a context. So it's always got to be located in a socio-economic context, within a national framework, policy framework context, and so on and so forth. But in particular, your programs will be responsive to local needs of industry, of your learners, and of your institution. And although programs that you're comparing may appear to be similar, they may even have similar names, those being offered by different institutions, but they may be responding in different ways and in fact be quite niche in what they're offering. So being very responsive at a local level to particular demands. So be careful about context and be careful to always be aware of different contexts when you're comparing different academic programs. Doing a comparative analysis also helps you to identify articulation possibilities, to consider where your students are going to go once they've finished your program. Are they going to be able to progress up to a qualification at a higher level, or will they be able to move into a program perhaps in a similar in the same field but a slightly different area of specialization, or will they be moving into a different stream? So could they be moving from a vocational qualification into a professional qualification at a higher level, and that we call diagonal articulation. I won't go into any more detail of this here, however, because Marianne Bester has covered this in some detail in her presentation in this module. But by comparing your program with other programs and by considering what these articulation possibilities are, it helps you to identify what the areas are for possible collaboration. So could you be collaborating with some of these institutions that you've identified in terms of technological innovation? Could you be sharing academic teaching? Do they have specialist teachers on their programs that perhaps you could invite to come and lecture on your programs, and vice versa? So what are the areas for collaboration? It really opens up possibilities for you to look at your program in terms of the bigger picture. And of course, it also provides you with all the evidence you need to inform the rationale and purpose of your proposed program. So when you're documenting the development of your program, you do need to give a quite detailed rationale and purpose. Why have you chosen to develop this particular program, and in what way, and why have you chosen to select these aspects or these subjects and these credit values and not those? And that you'll be able to do by comparing through a detailed critical analysis of these other programs that you've looked at. So what does a comparative evaluation comprise? Well, it needs to include both public and private higher education institutions. And I say this because there are many private higher education institutions out there today that have very specialist niches that may be in direct competition to your program. So they don't perhaps compete at an institutional level, in that they don't have the same number and variety of different programs perhaps as a public institution, but they do have specialist programs. So you need to consider what those are and do a very careful analysis of them to make sure that you're not perhaps reproducing what they're doing, and that your program is different in some way, offering some niche that will draw students to want to come and study on your program. You also need to look at both national and international standards and professional body requirements. So if you are offering a qualification in the medical field or in the engineering field, what are the requirements of the professional bodies? What are their standards? And if you're comparing with another qualification internationally, what are their standards and requirements of their professional bodies? Are they similar or different? So if they do have different standards and requirements, how does it affect the types of qualifications they offer? So how would your program compare to theirs if they have different standards and requirements? Or are the standards and requirements similar? In which case you could be looking for more similarities and deciding on whether some of those ideas are that you could incorporate in your program, or whether the context is too different and that it wouldn't be appropriate. So you'd always look at similar qualifications in terms of the level. So you'd compare a level 8 to a level 8 on a 10 level qualifications framework. Just be careful if the qualifications frameworks are different. You'll be looking at best practices and standards. So you're always going to be comparing with excellence as opposed to mediocre qualifications and programs. You want to benchmark yours against the best, both nationally and internationally. And it's particularly important that we look at programs and higher education institutions in Africa, because we do want to collaborate with institutions in Africa, and we especially want to do this in order to decolonize our curricula, our programs, and our universities. So what sort of programs are being offered by other African universities? And there are many excellent African universities offering excellent programs that we could be comparing ourselves with and collaborating with. So in your comparative evaluation, you'll need to compare the qualification types. How are they similar or different in terms of purpose, nature, and characteristics? You need to decide whether you're going to compare the program-related components, so the program design and educational practices, and are you going to compare the curriculum-related components, so the subjects, what kind of subjects are the other programs offering? What are the core subjects? What are their specialisations? How would your program be similar or different, and why? What would be the credit values of your subjects compared to the subjects that other programs are offering? And how does the credit value of the overall program compare? What are the knowledge, skills, and graduate attributes of the different programs and qualifications and curricula? So comparing all of these aspects. Be very careful if you are doing an international comparative analysis, because many international qualifications frameworks do differ. So if you're looking at a European qualifications framework or Australian qualifications framework or whatever it is, be very careful to be comparing like with like, apples with apples, or pears with pears. So the AQF does differ in terms of the purposes and characteristics of the different qualifications. So just be aware and be sure that yours is, as I say, you're comparing like with like. So when you do conduct a comparability evaluation, the first thing you'll need to do is determine the scope. So what is the scope of the evaluation at program level, and at subject level and at curriculum level? What are you particularly looking for when you're doing this comparability evaluation? Select your countries, the countries that are leaders, that are renowned for best practice. Similarly, the institutions that are renowned, that are leaders in the field, and in terms of educational practice. So academically, are they very strong? Do they have very good results? Are their professional bodies known for their high standards and for high quality? So what is the standard? What is the quality? You're looking at leaders, you're looking at best practice when you select both the institutions. Well, firstly, when you're looking at the countries that you want to compare, that you want to select institutions from, and then the institutions themselves. You'll need to investigate a range of higher educational institutions. You're not going to just choose, let's say, two, if you want to compare your qualification or your program with another one in South Africa. You're not going to go, well, I'll just compare with DUT and perhaps, I don't know, Central University of Technology in the Free State. You'll need to look much more broadly than that, and you'll need to justify why you've chosen those and why not others. You need to select appropriate qualification types, and I've said this already, okay? So be sure that the qualification purpose characteristics are similar, otherwise you can't really do a comparison. Are you going to go and evaluate and compare the program and all the aspects of the curriculum? So what is the scope? And then once you've done all of these things, once you've investigated your range of higher education institutions, and you've selected the appropriation qualifications types, and then you've evaluated and compared the programs or the curricula, then you write all of this up into a rationale. This is what you have chosen, this is what you chose to look at, this is why, and this is how they are different or the same. So in other words, a critical evaluation of the differences and similarities of the different programs. So really, in a nutshell, that's what it's all about. And I hope this has given you a sort of a broad overview of what it takes to conduct a comparative analysis or comparability evaluation. I do urge you, however, to go and look at the CPU articulation policy, because this will provide you with a much more detailed information of how to look for articulation possibilities for your program and what these mean. So thank you very much. I hope this was helpful, and we will be, Marianne Bester's presentation on articulation will build on this. Thank you.